Welcome to Cheat the Spread, powered by 613 Sports.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 4 of Cheat the Spread. We're back from our little 2-week break. But before we get into all that, as you know, this is brought to you by 613 Sports. And we got a little bit of news on that front for you guys. So, you might know Faces Magazine in Ottawa. It's pretty big deal, you know. We've been nominated as Ottawa's best blog at 613 Sports. So if you want to vote, go to facesmag.ca/awards. And if you scroll all the way down to the digital and social category, click on that and go to the blog category and just press vote beside 613 Sports. And you know what? It would really mean a lot to us if you guys can go ahead and do that for us. We really appreciate catching that W. But let's get back into Cheat the Spread. I'm your co-host, Cameron Shaddad, and I'm here with Jack Lovett joining us from Mississauga today. What's going on, Jack?
Not too much, man. I mean, it's been a while since we've been on, obviously, as you mentioned. It was a crazy week 17. A couple teams resting players, couple teams doing weird stuff. I mean, there were a lot of weird stuff. Basically, the main way I attacked it was playing props with a lot of players with incentives and stuff, and so I had some success doing that. I mean, you saw, like, I think there was a player on Seattle, I forget who received like 2 or 3 shovel passes to get an extra 50K. So you had a lot of stuff like that going on. Other than that, excited to get into the playoffs. A lot of cool stuff going on. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun.
For sure, yeah. So like Jack said, you know, week 17 is always a weird week in the NFL, and for sanity's sake, we decided to kind of take a break. You know, it was the holidays, New Year's, and, you know, we figured we'd just take a rest and regroup for the new year and get ready to go with episode 4, Wildcard Weekend, and get into our picks. So to recap real quick, Jack kind of touched on it, and, you know, our total records now we're going to be at, I'm 4-4. I'm on a little bit of a cold streak, but I'm ready to snap that. You know, we took a break. I'm ready to go. Jack is still red hot. He's 9-6-1. He's giving you guys free money every week. Make sure you follow those bets. Our joint pick, you know, I think I'm icing those down a little bit too. That's at 1-2 right now. But you know what? Wildcard Weekend, there's less games to pick from, so we got to be extra smart, and we're going to go super hard in the paint in this game, and we're going to go off.
Sounds good to me. I mean, I'm all in. Let's do it.
So getting into our overreactions and underreactions, I'm going to let Jack go ahead with his overreaction for this week.
For sure. So my overreaction this week is a line that really stuck out to me. I mean, in the playoffs, usually the lines are considered more efficient, more sharp, but this line just makes no sense to me. I don't get why Chicago is getting 10 points against the New Orleans Saints. This is a Saints team that I'm not high on. I know Cam's not that high on them either. Drew Brees, I don't think he is what he was. They have no Kamara this weekend, probably. Seems like he's still dealing with the COVID stuff. Michael Thomas is questionable. He might play, but he hasn't been great this year. And this is a Chicago team that last week, obviously, Green Bay dealt with them pretty easily, but I think that they're putting too much stock in that. I think Green Bay is a great team, and they came in needing that one scene, they locked it up, but Chicago's going to be able to run the ball a bit. With Montgomery, they're going to be able to get people involved. When these teams faced in week 10, I believe it went to overtime with Foles as the starter, and Trubisky, whatever you think of him, he's an upgrade over Foles, in my opinion. So getting 10 points, I think that's an overreaction.
And also, just to add on real quick, Quan Alexander is also out for the Saints. He tore his ACL, I believe, so he's done for the year. Big blow to their defense. But getting into my underreaction for this week, I'm going with Baltimore only getting -3 against Tennessee. I know they're on the road, but Baltimore's been red hot down the stretch here. They've figured out a lot of things on offense, it looks like. Tennessee's defense is absolute garbage, as we've seen week after week. And Baltimore is the only team, I think, in the NFL that can actually outrun Derrick Henry. We've seen it. Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Mark Ingram. This is a monster backfield. Nobody can slow down this run defense, especially not the Swiss cheese Tennessee has back there. I don't see how Baltimore's only getting -3. They've been beaten up on a lot of good teams recently, and I think this is a big-time underreaction and some good value to be had there.
Like that. I agree. Baltimore is coming in red hot. This game, as we're going to see, is a bit more dicey for me, but if I am playing it, I am on the Baltimore side, so I agree with your general sentiment there.
And Jack kind of mentioned, like we touched on briefly, getting into some dicier games and our stayaways for this week. I am not going anywhere near Pittsburgh versus Cleveland. I don't want anything to do with this game. We got the COVID-ridden Browns. You know, Stefanski's probably not going to be coaching this game. The Steelers' offense has been anything but inspiring recently. I don't want anything to do with this. It's a 6-point game right now, too, as the odds makers have it in favor of Pittsburgh. So I'm just staying away. You know, if this game was, everybody was healthy, no COVID or anything like that, I would probably take Cleveland. They've been on fire recently. But with the COVID concerns they've had, Pittsburgh's offense being garbage, I don't know which way this game is going to go, and I'm staying as far away as I can.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the COVID stuff has to be concerning, and Stefanski has done a good job. But yeah, if he's not going to be there, then you got to stay away. My stay away is actually going to kind of zag from what Cam was saying with Baltimore, because for me, that's a game that I want to watch. And, you know, if I was to bet it, I would be on Baltimore. But I just think King Henry and I heard an anecdote in a podcast where this guy was saying, this big Ravens fan, someone was talking about Lamar, and he just doesn't trust him in big games. And, and we haven't seen Lamar win a playoff game yet. So this is a spot where if Lamar gets this game and looks really good, I may back Baltimore in the next round against Kansas City. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But I just need to see it. As bad as Tennessee's defense is, I agree with that 100%. They are atrocious. They made Baker Mayfield look like fucking Patrick Mahomes, pardon my language. But yeah, yeah, so I'm just going to watch this game and enjoy it, but I'm going to stay away from this one this week.
No, I think that's definitely fair. And I mean, just to touch on that Lamar point real quick, because we'll get into that with our locks, dogs, and teas, because my lock for this week, I wouldn't say there's too many sure things, and that's kind of a little bit of our little warning before this. Yeah. Anything can happen on Wildcard Weekend. We've seen it happen many times with the Minnesota Miracle and things like that going down. Shout out to the Saints fans out there.
Hannah steps into it. Pass is caught! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
But anything can happen on Wildcard Weekend. But my lock is Baltimore. And as Jack said, Lamar Jackson, and I've been one of his biggest critics recently over the past couple of years. He can't win in the playoffs. I've said that many times. But he proved a lot of us wrong, I think, in that Browns game where, we had the diarrhea gate going on. No one knows, did he or didn't he? But he did come back from that and was able to throw a massive touchdown on the last drive of that game and push Baltimore to a victory. And you know what? He sold me. I want to see him take down the Tennessee Titans and try and go for an AFC Championship run. So Lamar and Baltimore are my locks at -3. Get that line before it goes up.
Nice. Yeah, I would definitely grab it at 3 if you want that. 3.5 is kind of an icky number. For my lock, I'm going to go a bit weird here. I'm not going to take a side. I know that's not as sexy maybe, but I'm going to look at Seattle Rams under. If you can get 43, that would be great. Maybe wait till game time to see if the over money, because there's typically some over money close to game time, see if it gets there. It's at 42.5 right now. I think the team that gets to 20 wins this game. These are two good defenses. And I know it's weird to say that about Seattle, which was probably the worst passing defense at least ever in the first 10 weeks of the season. But they've really improved. Jamal Adams is coming into form. Pete Carroll is getting more to his, origins of being the gritty guy who pounds the rock and has good D. Aaron Donald is going to pose a lot of trouble. And Jalen Ramsey is DK Metcalf's worst nightmare. Metcalf has been a ghost lately. So I just think this is a
fantasy season.
Yeah, that's rough. But yeah, I just think that this is a defensive showdown between two divisional opponents. I forgot what the finals. I think it was 29, the final of the last one. I think it's going to be really low scoring.
Yeah, it was a pretty low scoring game.
And I'm not scared off by it only being 42.5. I'm going to be playing the under. That's my lock.
Sure, that's definitely fair. And I think, like you said, we've also seen Jared Goff. He's coming back from an injury, so who knows what's going to happen in that game. But getting into my dog, if you followed my dog on our last episode, I told you to take Oklahoma at plus 125 on the money line. That was up to minus 300 by game time started. So you got to get on these picks, guys. You got to get on them when we tell you them, because these lines are moving fast. We're giving out free money. And this happened again this afternoon. We were putting together a little document, and I had said to take Washington football team at plus 8.5 against the Buccaneers. That line's already dropped to plus 8. So if you can still get this line before it goes below 7, I would get that no matter what. Anything 7 and up, I would definitely take Washington at that. Mike Evans is banged up. We don't know if he's going to play or not. Devin White is probably not playing for the Buccaneers. He's coming back from COVID still. We've got multiple players coming back. I think Shaq Barrett is just coming off the COVID list, and we've seen with players like Cam Newton how that can affect their play. And Washington, I've seen it in the news a lot this week. Washington is 5-1 with Alex Smith at quarterback. Smith's going to be playing. Dwayne Strip Club Haskins is gone. So you know what? I'd like Washington in this game. They could even pull off an upset, but for sure, I think plus 8.5, plus 8, plus 7.5, whatever you can get it at above 7 is great value to take Washington in this game, and I'd be all over that.
I really hope you're right there, because Tom Brady being my moral nemesis, I would love nothing more than Chase Young just to get all over him. And obviously Chase Young was in the news for saying that himself. But yeah, for my dog, I'm going to be staying in the Rams-Seahawks game, because I think the Rams are probably going to win this game. It's just a gut thing. Obviously it's a toss-up. I think either team could win, but in that case, I'm always going to take the points with the better defense. That's just sort of one of those things. The Rams might be the best defense in the league. They're certainly top 3. And so I'm going to take the plus 3.5 it's in at right now. If you can get plus 4, that's great. It was at plus 4.5 when it opened. So if you could have got that, that would have been awesome. And I'm not opposed to sprinkling on the money line too. I'm not sure what it's sitting at now, but Sean McVay does well in the division. He knows Pete Carroll. And obviously it's dangerous taking possibly John Wolford over Russell Wilson. That's the thing where, you got to kind of brace for the best and hope John Wolford shows up. But I didn't think he looked terrible against the Cardinals, and I'm not even sure he's worse than Jared Goff, as weird as that sounds, playing one game. So I'm going to look to the Rams in this game with the points.
I definitely think that's fair. As you know, I've criticized the Rams quite a bit in the past, but anybody I hate more than the Rams is the Seahawks. And you know what? I'm all over that. I agree with you. Honestly, the only way this game could end it better for me is if they both somehow find a way to lose. That would be great from a Niners fan perspective. But I doubt we see that happen. Getting into my teaser for this week, though, we mentioned it. Jack mentioned it earlier. This Bears game is great value with the Bears at +10. So I'm all over this Bears teaser. If you can tease the Bears at the +16, if they lose by 2 touchdowns, I don't even know what to tell you because the Saints, you know what? The Saints are legit if they can do that. I don't think they will, but they're legit if they can do that. So you can get this Bears team all the way up to 16. You can get this total down to 41. You can take the over on that, or you can get it all the way up to in the mid 50s and take under. You can get it all the way to over 41 or under somewhere in the mid 50s. I think either one of those is great value. So if you can get this Bears team at +16 still and anywhere in that kind of 40 to 50 range in the points, I think is great value to be had, and I'm all over that teaser.
I agree with you. I think myself, I would maybe go to the under personally, just because I think the Bears defense Breeze is gonna struggle in my opinion, but I think that's a great side to look for the teaser. For my teaser, I'm going Saturday, and I'm rocking with my boys. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, when I first saw this line, I kind of want to talk about this for a bit, because when I first saw this line, the Colts being 6.5, I didn't like it. I thought this line should be 4.5, 5. I was like, are the Bills really? Because the Bills have been, I think part of it was that the Bills have been so profitable the last couple of weeks. They just blew out a Miami team that needed to win,
And
Pittsburgh in prime time. Denver, yeah, they're just becoming a public darling. But then I thought about it some more, and it's Phillip Rivers in the cold against a good secondary. Yes, I think the rushing matchup is potentially troubling for the Bills. If the Colts could somehow play ball control and really run the clock down with Taylor, maybe that's a path they keep it close. But personally, I don't see it. I think the Bills spread them out and just dice them with Diggs. Probably no Beasley, but we have Gabe Davis. Isaiah McKenzie was awesome last week. So taking the Bills down to 0.5, and I'm going to take the Bucks down to 2.5. I agree Washington with the points. This is one of those games where low scoring, so I agree with Cam's point with the points is strong, but I just don't see Tampa Bay losing. Brady's played in cold weather before, as much as I hate him. They just have a lot of weapons that are coming into their own. Even without Evans, Godwin looks good. So under a field goal, and Alex Smith does well. Like, he's done well this year, but last week against a Philly team that looked like they were trying to lose, I just wasn't impressed. So I'm just going to take Tampa under a field goal. And if that line's moved to 8, you can get them to -2. So I would do Buffalo and Tampa Bay for a Saturday teaser.
For sure, just touch on those really quick kind of thing. First of all, I think I speak for any unbiased football fan that when we say we'd all love to see the Chiefs take on the Bills in the AFC Championship, I think that would be some great quality football. Yeah. And on that Bucks game, just to touch on my football team pick, I'm not saying they're going to win, guys. I'm not saying they're going to win. I just think it'll keep the game close, and that kind of ties into both these picks where we're both kind of predicting a closer game than they might be projecting right now, in Vegas at least. And thankfully, it's playoff time, and you know what that means? There are actually player props lines listed on Thursday. So we finally have some real numbers and some real odds for everybody with our player props. Jack's going to run you through some, but my only player prop I have for this week, I'm on Trey Burton, anytime touchdown scorer for the Colts at +400 against the Bills. If there's one major weakness in the Bills defense, it is their ability to cover tight ends. We've seen tight ends like Noah Fant over recent weeks be able to put up monster games against them. And Trey Burton, you know what? He saved my fantasy season a few times this year. He can put up TDs. Phillip Rivers likes to pass him the ball. They like to get some gimmicky plays going with him and get him in the end zone. So I think there's great value in Trey Burton at +400 in this game.
I agree. I think that's a good look if you are going to take a Colts player, because I could see Rivers kind of flustered, and Burton's kind of a safety guy he likes to look to, so I like that angle. For my props, I've got 3, and I've got 1 potential if John Wolford starts. If John Wolford does start against the Rams, you should take his rushing yards prop. And this is something that I'm kind of proud of myself last week, because it's kind of a hidden gem. I was looking at, because I heard this John Wolford guy, who is this? I look at his Pro Football Reference, and in college, this guy was like a rushing demon. This guy had 10 touchdowns, crazy amount of yards, and his rushing prop was only 26.5. And I think he had 50 something last week, so that cashed easily. If his rushing is under 42 yards, I would say, I would hop on that. I think he's going to be under pressure, and I think he's going to make some plays against Seattle. But the 3 ones that I've pretty locked right now are all also in the Buffalo Indy game. I'm looking at Stephon Diggs over 91.5 yards. And this is just straight chalk. This is just Bills are going to spread him out. I think Stephon Diggs eats. I think he's passed this in like 6 of his last 7, as high as that is. Something crazy like that. I think he gets over 100. Yeah, he's been feasting. And sort of going along with that, I'm taking Josh Allen over 25.5 completions, just because our run game sometimes gets going, but it's pretty non-existent. Like we're kind of like the Steelers in that if we're going to do sort of little dink and dunks, it's going to be through the pass game. We don't really run the ball. And the Colts are a big zone defense. And so I think that sort of goes along with the Diggs point. Like, I think Allen's going to get a lot of completions, maybe not for a ton of yards, but I think he's going to get a lot of completions. And my final prop I'm looking at, on the other side, I'm going to fade old Philly Rivers. It would have been profitable in the last 2 weeks if you took this prop, because in late times in the game, he just likes to chuck it to the DBs, including against Jacksonville somehow. So Philip Rivers, if his interception prop is anything 150 or less, maybe 160, I still look at it. That's really high juice to pay. But I just see a ton of scenarios where they're down and Philly Rivers just forces it into a hole. And the Bills have a strong secondary. We have Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Trey White, Ball Hawkin. I think we're going to get a pick in this game. So those are my 3 looks for the props this weekend.
If there's one quarterback in the NFL that you like to hit on more than Nick Mullins, it's Philip Rivers. So I'm all over that one with you.
Yeah.
And getting into our joint pick for this week, we're going to let Jack introduce it. I've been introducing it recently, and we're not doing too well. So let's try and change the luck up. Jack, what's our joint pick for this week?
Sounds good. For our joint pick this week, it sort of ties into my overreaction and a point we both make, fading the Saints and Drew Brees. We're going to take Chicago with the points. 10 points is way too many for a playoff game. Like, if you see 10 points for a playoff game, unless the team is like from the CFL or something, you should take those points. And I don't mean to diss CFL. Obviously, I'm a Canadian. We're both Canadians. We love.
We don't want to get canceled like Boomer. We agree. We like the CFL.
Yeah,
just not
that was such a dumb comment. I hated when he made that comment. That was diss.
The
But
reason why Boomer is not on the primetime broadcast anymore.
definitely, yeah. But 10 is just way too many points for this Bears defense. You have Khalil Mack. You have a solid running game. And Trubisky's not bad. Like, I don't think he's good, but he's looked okay at points. He's kind of feisty at points. So, like, you're getting 10 points. There's backdoor city. And I think the Bears, if they won this game, Cam and I were saying, like, we wouldn't be shocked. So, yeah, take the 10 points. Yeah.
The most consistent thing we see on Wildcard Weekend is the Saints finding a way to set and have a terrible season go down the drain just like that. So, you know what? You got to fade the Saints in Wildcard Weekend. Drew Brees has not proven otherwise in the last 10 years. So, you know what? Take the points. The money's there. Well, if you lose, you lose. But you know what? There's great value to be had here.
Bet.
And the risk is much higher than the reward. Or the reward is much higher than the risk.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good bet. You can lose a good bet. You can win a bad bet. I agree. It's great value getting 10 points in the playoffs.
Sure. But that's going to do it for our picks this week, everybody. We hope you enjoy our picks. You know, we did have to touch quickly on college football is going on Monday night, but there's so many wild cards going on in the championship game. Justin Fields, who knows what's going on with those ribs? Ohio State has so many COVID cases. Alabama, you know, we don't even know if it's going to be played on Monday night. So we're staying away. We're going to stay off that game. You know, maybe we'll get some personal, like, live bet or something like that going during the game. But we're going to stay off of it. But that's going to do it for our picks this week. I hope you guys enjoy and have a great weekend this weekend. Hopefully you can make some money off Wildcard Weekend. Thank you for sticking with us after the break. You know, we're ready to go 2021. We're ready to get it. Lots of sports hopefully going to be back this year. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Like this video, subscribe, comment down below. You're not going to want to miss anything coming in 2021 for 613 Sports and Cheap to Spread. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Peace.
Yeah, I'm leaving. Ice on me, man. I got diamonds, but they say that I don't need them. She gon' need me when she need me. I've been rolling through my thoughts and you can